Hey everyone, welcome. I'm going to attempt to use this whiteboard to fully explain the wave particle duality and the way it's reflected in all of creation, as well as many other topics. I'm currently grounding. I don't have any shoes on. I'm touching the earth. I want this information to flow intuitively as it did when I discovered it. So, who am I? My name is Tyler Vincent. I'm a certified Reiki practitioner. I've been a stay-at-home dad for several years. There's really not any job I haven't done. In the recent years, I have been really contemplating what it means to exist at all. So I have come to what I believe is the most accurate solution for the wave particle duality. So the wave particle equals love and wisdom. I'm going to be going into this. This is only one of the many reflections that could be found in this phenomenon. So to start off, since this is such an in-depth concept, I have to break down all of reality, because this is, whenever we look at everything, when we look at everything under a microscope, this is where we end, right here at the wave particle. We can't observe anything smaller, because when we try to observe the wave, it condenses to a particle. So I'm going to talk about what that means, all that good stuff. Let's start by explaining what philosophy and science, like how they're different. First off, science is how we explain the physical world. So philosophy, I'm not an English major, is how we explain the metaphysical world. Just like on a computer with files, you have the physical copy, and you have the metadata, which is like when it was created, things like that. You have the physical world and the metaphysical world. So the physical world is the observable, everything that you observe and it can be measured. The metaphysical is everything that can't be measured. For example, whenever you hug, say, your mom or your dad or your children, we can obviously say, like, scientifically, we can say the arm, which is composed of this, wraps their hands around and stuff like that. But intuitively, philosophically, metaphysically, we explain this phenomenon as a child loving their mom, or a child loving their dad, whatever. So another example would be is a chair. So science can build the chair. You can take the measurements and stuff like that, and you can put that chair right in front of somebody. But it is philosophy and the metaphysical concepts of the chair that give it the value that it can be sat upon and things like that. Now, some other ways that we can see this is, we'll get into that in a second. So this right here, whenever I say that we live in two worlds, this is what I'm talking about. Physically, you can measure something, but metaphysically is how you describe it and give it value. So to expand on this concept and to bring it closer to the wave particle duality, we need to look at the wave particle itself. Here's the double slit experiment right here. I guess I'm not using red. It just came apart. It just came apart. Yeah. No red. Just bought these markers today. So I'm going to explain the double slit experiment, because today I was in a drive-thru about to get me some fries and a lemonade. And I asked the person in the drive-thru, I said, "Do you know what the wave particle duality is?" And they said, "What?" So this person was 22 years old, has never even heard of the wave particle duality. So I will explain it now. So the wave particle duality is whenever you send a single photon, the smallest observable particle, whenever you send a single photon through a vacuum, it exhibits a wave-like behavior. Now, it does something here at the slit, but this isn't important right now. What's important is on the other side of this wall, it exhibits a wave pattern as well, until it hits a surface or it is observed. Then it turns into a particle again. It starts off as a particle, it becomes a wave, and then it ends as a particle. So this is science observing the physical. Now we have to use philosophy to describe it, to explain it. So now going back to explaining things like the physical and the metaphysical, this right here, just like saying the boy is hugging the mom, instead of going through, oh, the arm reaches around, stuff like that, we summarize it as a job or something. Like the man is forging the blade, the woman is braiding her hair. We can logically, physically break these processes down, but metaphysically we describe it in collective of as the man forging the blade, the woman braiding her hair. This is a process as well. We know it's a process because logically we can observe the changes happening. So that means that this can be looked at philosophically. We can describe this process. So that being said, since this is the very bottom, like science has pulled apart everything, we're looking down at the surface level particle, we could say, and we can't observe any further, we could say that this is the building block to all reality. That's huge. This is the building block of all reality. Not only is it physically the building block, but metaphysically, philosophically, it is the building block of all reality. So how can we understand what it is? Well, we have to look at all reality. To start our adventure of looking at all of reality and becoming, philosophically applying it to the wave and the particle, let me get this back up here. So to describe this, we have to think like what in reality exhibits this behavior. We have to break it down even further. We got to look at the exact process. It is a wave. Not only is it a wave, but in theory, you could put on a graph, you could put a point anywhere on this wave and it would still equal that wave. So this wave essentially represents infinite energy. The only time it becomes finite is whenever it's observed and becomes a physical particle. So what exhibits these behaviors? What is infinite but also physical? This is obviously the blueprint to creation, but we need to understand it. I'm just going to skip to the chase. We're going to look at the sky and the earth. What is the sky? It's expansive. It's logical. It's constant. Now let's take a look at the earth. The earth is fertile. The earth is nurturing. The earth also respects free will, whereas the sky does not respect free will. It is assertive. So these are two obvious, we cannot explain these occurrences, but these are obviously a part of the creation. The sky is expansive, logical, constant, infinite. The earth is fertile, nurturing, and respects free will. We find this relationship in the wave-particle duality itself at the fundamental building block. The wave is seemingly infinite. The wave does not affect anything directly. It just is. And then whenever it goes, it interacts with a logical, observable environment and collapses down to a logical and observable particle. So these things, what do they have in common? Free-flowing, seemingly infinite, seems to come out of nowhere, can't observe it, not observable. What else is like that? Intuition. What can be observed physically? What can we measure? Logic. The wave is the polar opposite of the particle, which is also the polar opposite of logic. Logic and intuition are polar opposites. You can observe logical understanding. You cannot observe intuition, because the sudden you start to think about intuition, you are in your logical mind. You cannot observe intuition. All right, so these words right here, intuition and logic, these words themselves are not observable. Logic and intuition is how we philosophically describe these two states. We can measure it, we can do whatever, we philosophically describe it as logic. We can't observe it. It's everywhere seemingly. It's philosophically described as intuition. So what else carries these same traits. Now we have to get into spiritual concepts. So one of the big things, whenever you really start to decide that you want to change your life and you want to do the greatest good by you and the greatest good by everybody, one of the things that you will discover that is so vital and important is love. You love yourself, you love others, your life starts to change. But I don't mean a superficial love. I don't mean like I love my dog, I love hamburgers until they make me fat, and then that's superficial, right? So this love is unconditional love. That says unconditional, if you can read it. This is unconditional love. What does unconditional love mean? That means you respect free will. That is the ultimate overarching structure. One of the aspects of creation is respecting free will. And then over here we have the logical side. What philosophical characteristic do we describe the particle as? It is, you're taking this seemingly unviewable substance, this unviewable experiences, and consolidating it down into an observed particle. What else is that? What do you do in your life where you go through life and experience things and you put it all together and then all of a sudden you have this understanding? Wisdom. The particle, logically, physically, is this. Metaphysically, as it is the gathering of this seemingly infinite energy, consolidating it down into a usable, observable particle. And obviously in quantum physics, we call this light and information. So we are consolidating light and information into something which is wisdom. Now, wisdom and unconditional love are opposites. They are polar opposites. So that means you cannot view unconditional love, but you can view wisdom, You can view wisdom. If somebody makes you an amazing house, you're viewing their wisdom. That's their wisdom. You're physically viewing their physical manifestation of wisdom. Unconditional love and wisdom are opposites. They're polar opposites because wisdom infers that there is a structure and everything follows a certain order to achieve a goal, whereas unconditional love implies that everything is essentially bouncing around and there's no structure. Everything is doing whatever it wants, regardless of whatever anybody else thinks. This is why they're polar opposites. So as you can see, the wave-particle duality reflects this very, very significant spiritual concept of love and wisdom and a balance of the two. Now, we logically can separate this phenomenon. We see waves, we see particles, but philosophically we know this is one thing. This is one process that we currently describe as the wave-particle duality, because that's what our logical mind sees. But intuitively, we see it as the creative process, the creative blueprint to all existence found at the fundamental level. So that means at the fundamental level of all things in existence, you find pure wisdom and pure unconditional love. So we philosophically connected wisdom and love to the particle and the wave. But how can we physically connect it? It's right there. Unconditional love is free will, expansive, infinite. The wave represents, metaphysically, the infinite potential held within free will. The particle exhibits the opposite. It represents what happens when you take free will, manipulate it into one observable particle. This is how you can physically comprehend love and wisdom. That is how you can physically see this is love. The wave is love. The wave is infinite potential. The love is free will itself. It is free will itself. And the particle is the consolidation, the wisdom of the creator coming together and creating this. The next relationship that can be displayed in the wave-particle duality is also another advanced spiritual concept. Whenever you go through your life and you decide you want to do better, whether you know it or not, there is a subconscious decision you've made in your head. You're either wanting to serve others or you're wanting to serve yourself. This is reflected in the wave-particle duality. Whenever you serve others out of love, not only do you feel more vitality, more fulfilled and expansive, but you also allow the free will of the Creator to flow easier because you're aligning with the concept of love and free will. So in the wave-particle duality, the wave being unconditional love, we don't see the service until it's interacted with. Like, how does this wave serve something else? Right here, the particle. The wave represents whenever you serve others. The particle physically represents the service to self. You're taking the free will of other things, of other entities, consolidating it into your own being. These are huge. Not only are these spiritual concepts that you will find in every religious text, every spiritual anything, it is physically reflected in the blueprint of creation. This is the answer to the wave-particle duality. You see this everywhere. Men and women, the sperm and the egg, the sky, masculine, the earth, fertile, and the earth is in unlimited potential, and it respects free will. These connections can go on and on. It's literally everything in existence. So anyways, to wrap it up, the wave-particle duality, while we logically view this as two separate things, it is philosophically one process. This is the process of the Creator. The Creator sends out unconditional love. The feminine aspect is the unconditional love, respecting free will. The masculine logical aspect is what puts it together and gives it logic and structure. While we view these logically as two separate things, they are inseparable, two sides of the same coin that creation would not exist without these two aspects. So now that we've wrapped that up, I guess now the only thing to talk about is what this means for humanity. If the core of everything is unconditional love and wisdom, not only does this prove that we are intelligently designed and there is a creator, this also proves that we all have a purpose. We all share a common purpose that is written in code in our blueprint and in the existence of all things. So technology, to think of it this way, the sky and the earth understand this concept intuitively. And the sky and the earth create things that man hardly even really has a grasp on, you know? We're just now, with harps and all that stuff, you know, we're just now figuring out some stuff. But nature knows this stuff intuitively. So if we are to master technology and ourselves in the future, we have to understand this concept. Technology must reflect love and wisdom. If it doesn't resonate with the creation, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work to the fullest and the brightest, the best extent, the best. You won't, until you grasp these concepts, you're not going to make anything that's close to God. All right, nothing. You have to understand these concepts. So the next absolutely stunning and amazing relationship I found, we have to talk about the masculine and feminine. So they're obviously polar opposites. The masculine is where the wisdom resides, and the feminine is where the love resides. They're polar opposites. So the masculine and feminine metaphysically actually has polarities. Metaphysically, masculine and feminine can be positive or negative. And this doesn't mean good or bad. This means positive being outwards expression and negative being inwards expression. So the masculine, you're outwardly assertive or inwards assertive. We can see this relationship in the sky and the earth. The sky is inward and outwards. The sun is outwards expression. The moon is inwards reflection. The earth is positive and negative feminine. Not only does it nurture itself, but it nurtures everything else. So now the interesting relationship is whenever we get into the physical, this polarity actually stands out a certain way. So whenever we physically observe the earth, this is the earth is an example of what it looks like whenever this free will, this energy is put together and structured and manipulated. So this is obviously whenever you manipulate free will in spiritual concepts, that is a negative action. Whenever you manipulate free will for something else that you want to create, that is considered a negative action. Which is why in electrostatics, the earth is negatively polarized, whereas the sky The sky, when observed, appears to be what it would look like if everything was to just run around and go crazy. If free will was to do whatever it wants, that's what it looks like, which is why it is positively polarized. Because whenever you allow free will to do whatever it wants, whenever you respect it, you are reflecting love. Very, very amazing. So anyways, I hope that really cleared it up. I could go on and on. There's obviously connections everywhere, but I hope that y'all found this insightful. This is the truth. I can't find any other way to break this down. I can't find any other way to spiritually link it to everything. Like, this is it right here in my backyard. And I think that about sums it up. If I think of anything else, I'll figure it out.